On the war-torn colony world of Seraph Prime, survival was a daily struggle. The human outpost there stood on the edge of alien territory, where hunger and chaos ruled after years of conflict. Supplies were scarce, trust was rarer still. And yet, every night one small mystery unfolded in the camp of soldier Mason Hele. Each morning he would wake to find a little less in his rations. A piece of bread gone, a strip of dried meat missing, sometimes even a water flask. At first he suspected rats, then thieves, but the pattern was too careful. Whoever was taking it knew exactly what to take and how not to leave a trace. So one night Mason stayed awake, silent in the shadows of his tent. Hours passed under the pale blue moonlight until he heard its soft footsteps. Light as a whisper, a figure crouched at the edge of his supply crate, thin arms shaking as they reached for food. Mason moved fast, catching the intruder by the wrist. She froze. Not human. Her skin shimmered faintly green under the dim light, eyes wide with fear and exhaustion. An alien girl, barely a teenager, judging by her size. She struggled weakly, too tired to fight. Mason could see she was starving. He did not shout. He did not call the guards. Instead, he loosened his grip and pointed at the stolen food in her trembling hands. "You could have asked," he said calmly. She stared at him, confused, unable to speak his language. Then she pressed her hand to her chest and said one word softly, almost pleading, "Mother." Mason sighed. The translator on his wrist picked up fragments from her gestures and tone. Her mother was sick, no medicine, no food. The girl had been sneaking into human camps for weeks, stealing just enough to keep her alive. He looked at the pale, trembling child in front of him and felt something shift inside. She was not an enemy, just desperate. He gave her the food and added a small medical kit. Her eyes widened with disbelief as she backed away, clutching the supplies close. From that night on, Mason left extra food out before sleeping. He never saw her come, but every morning it was gone. He said nothing to his squad. He just kept leaving food every night for a thief he no longer wanted to catch. He knew, and he chose kindness. Weeks passed, and Mason kept leaving food by the crate near the edge of his tent. The mysterious girl always came after midnight, quiet as moonlight. He never saw her again, but sometimes he found small things left and returned a smooth crystal, a wildflower, once even a carved stone shaped like a heart. She was thanking him in her own way. Rumors spread through the camp about missing supplies, and suspicion grew. Command wanted answers. Mason stayed silent. He knew if they caught her, the girl and her sick mother would not survive the punishment. One night, during a heavy storm, Mason heard faint knocking outside his tent. When he stepped out, the girl stood there drenched, trembling, clutching something in her arms. It was her mother, unconscious, breathing shallow. Mason did not hesitate. He pulled them inside and closed the flap against the wind. The translator struggled to keep up with her frantic words, but Mason understood enough. Her mother was dying, fever burning her up. They had nowhere else to go. Without permission, without thinking of the consequences, he treated her using the last of the camp's medical reserves: antibiotics, water, and warmth. Hours later, the alien woman's breathing steadied. The girl sat beside her, tears mixed with rain on her cheeks. When Mason tried to leave, the girl caught his hand and whispered something soft in her own language. The translator blinked once and gave one word: friend. The next morning, a patrol spotted strange tracks near Mason's post. Command ordered a search of his quarters. Panic filled him as he rushed back, but when he entered, the aliens were gone. Only the crystal heart remained, glowing faintly on his cot. That day, Mason faced interrogation. They accused him of aiding the enemy, of smuggling. He did not defend himself much. He just said they were not enemies. They were just hungry. He was reassigned to another outpost soon after. But sometimes at night he swore he could still hear faint footsteps in the dark, a quiet reminder that kindness travels farther than war ever could. Somewhere beyond the human lines, an alien mother lived, and a young girl carried stories of the human who had saved them. She still whispered his name under the alien stars. Years passed. The war ended, leaving scars across both human and alien worlds. Seraph Prime slowly began to rebuild, its once burning skies now calm. Mason Halley, older and tired, returned as part of a peacekeeping mission. The colony that had once been his battlefield was now a shared settlement, humans and aliens working side by side to rebuild what was lost. He walked through the ruins of his old camp, half buried in sand and time. The air was quiet except for the whisper of the wind. He stopped near the place where his tent used to stand. Memories rose like ghost nights of fear, a stolen loaf of bread, a child's desperate eyes, a word that had changed him forever. Friend. As he turned to leave, he heard footsteps. A group of alien workers approached, carrying tools and supplies. Among them was a tall young woman with bright green skin and calm golden eyes. When she saw him, she froze. Mason blinked, uncertain, then realized. It was her. The little thief from years ago? She walked closer, slowly studying his face. Then she reached into a small pouch and pulled out a worn crystal heart. It glowed faintly, the same one she had left behind in his tent. She placed it gently in his hand. "You remembered," he said softly. The translator on her wrist flickered to life, and her voice came through, clear and strong. "You saved my mother. You saved me. We never forgot." Mason smiled, his throat tight. Around them, the rebuilding of Seraph Prime continued, humans and aliens lifting stone and steel together. The war that had divided them seemed far away now. The young woman motioned toward the settlement. "Come," she said. "Mother wants to see you." He followed her to a small home built near the river. Inside, the alien woman sat by the window, frail but alive. She looked at him and smiled with quiet gratitude. No words were needed. Outside, children played human and alien together, no fear, no hate. Mason stood watching them, feeling something deep within him ease at last. The young woman stood beside him and said softly, "You fed one child once. Now 100 eat in peace." Mason looked up at the stars that had once witnessed their war and whispered, maybe humanity was never about power. Maybe it was about moments like that night. Under the same stars, two worlds began anew.